Good evening. From Walnut Hills School for the Arts, my name is Garrett Murphy, a graduate of the class of 2008, and I am delighted to welcome you as we kick off the first in our 5-part series, Winter Art Crush. Our series aims to offer you a peek behind the curtain at what happens in each of the 5 arts majors here at Walnut Hill. Tonight centers around the music department, and we will learn about this year's January project, which focused on 7 Last Words of the Unarmed, by composer Joel Thompson. We'll hear about the rehearsal process, guest speakers, and the students' experience of learning this powerful piece. I'm pleased now to be joined by Director of Music, Jennifer Elowitch. So Jenny, tell us about the piece you chose and why you chose it.
Right before the pandemic, we had a January project as one of our very last things before the shutdown. And we worked on considering Matthew Shepard, which was an amazing piece dealing with the death of Matthew Shepard in the 90s, a young gay man from Wyoming. And it was very moving for the students to deal with a social justice issue for the first time in a musical sort of way. And it was very impactful. So when our conductor, Erica Washburn, who is the director of choral activities at New England Conservatory, suggested that we think about 7 Last Words of the Unarmed by Joel Thompson. And I knew it dealt with police brutality toward Black men. And I knew that was such a current and important subject. And I knew that Walnut Hill had committed itself to racial justice. I thought it would be an ideal piece to take on. I did a lot of background looking at videos, listening to the piece, and hearing more about the composer. And I was so swept up by the beauty of the piece and also its powerfulness. It also really worked well because it was 15 minutes. It was vocally appropriate for students who are musicians, but not all voice majors, and had excellent instrumentation. But more importantly, the piece itself was so gripping from minute 1. And when I started looking at videos of the composer, Joel Thompson and got to know him, I just thought, I want him to be here working with our students. He's just the ideal guy. So the text of the piece is taken from the last words of 7 Black innocent men who were murdered by police or other figures of authority. So it takes their last words as the text of each movement. And that in itself is very powerful. The other thing that is powerful for musicians is the connection between the 7 last words of the Unarmed and the 7 last words of Christ, which is something that's been used so often in classical music in the past by Haydn, by Schutz, and by others. So we knew that there was also not only this sort of current important issue, but also its connection to the music that we do in general.
So Jenny, I heard one of the real highlights for the students in particular was getting an opportunity to work with and hear from the composer. Can you tell us a little bit about that, how that opportunity came about?
Yes. Honestly, Joel is a hard man to reach. And I did a lot of sleuthing in order to connect with him, but I was so glad that we finally had a wonderful phone call. And I was so happy to learn that he was eager to come here in person. And he really worked hard to make that happen, even during COVID times. So he was here on campus for 2 days and he worked with us in rehearsal. He worked with the instrumentalists and with the singers, but he also had some incredible workshops on Zoom. And I always wondered how engaged the students would be given that they would be on Zoom, but the kids were incredibly engaged with Joel, and partially because he is so relatable and yet so profound. I think we have a clip here of him talking about his motivation with the piece. I can say that the kids responded unbelievably, beautifully, and thoughtfully.
Let's check that out.
The way I dealt with strong emotions and at that time, and still do right now, is writing my feelings in some sort of musical form. Also, I was inspired by Sharon Barghi's pictogram series on Twitter. And Jenny showed me the bulletin board that you have in the hallway where you're incorporating her artwork next to the pictures of the unarmed men whose last words I said. And still, it moves me, just the appearing of a simple image with their last words. It really focuses on the humanity of these men. And that's something that I wanted to focus on. And by doing so, I was hoping to reclaim my own humanity. Because the feeling that I had when that decision was made by the jury was that if I were in the same situation as Eric Garner, if there was someone, if I had the law around my neck and I couldn't breathe, that my family shouldn't expect justice. My loved ones shouldn't expect anyone to be held accountable for taking my life. And so in a sense, that's telling me that my life is worthless, that my life means nothing, that you can kill an ant and you can kill a me and then nothing would happen. And so that was the sort of emotional impetus, that was the emotional impulse for writing the piece.
COVID plays a part in all of our lives now. How did your project change as a result of COVID and the Omicron variant?
We had so hoped that by the time the January project happened, that COVID might have receded. And of course, instead of receding, it was in a resurgence during our project. I'm very proud of our department and of the students for their resilience and their flexibility in making changes. And of course, with singing, you have particular challenges because you certainly do not want to be spreading COVID while you sing. So we bought N95 and N94 masks for everyone. We made sure to be distanced. And the main difference was we had to sit the chorus in the audience of the Kiter Theater. So it's an awkward way to sing. We had, many chairs between each student, as you'll see in later clips. And it's hard for someone who's not a singer on a daily basis to sing, period, especially to sing when there's no one near them. And I think that was a huge challenge that the kids really rose to. And I'm so excited about the possibility that we're going to do a real performance on June 1st at Assembly, where we'll be able to be on the risers. But in the meantime, we decided to do a concert recording, and we really took this as an actual performance. And so we set it up like a concert. We dressed up, we were nervous, we got ready, we had a dress rehearsal, but it really felt like a concert, even though we were doing it for cameras. And I really felt at the time we did the recording that the level rose like it would in a concert. And it was very moving to hear sort of the commitment and the sort of true emotion of the students, and how that even changed in the concert recording.
So beyond just the music, one of the things that makes the January Project so special are the guests that you bring to the community. Often international, nationally renowned artists or lecturers on the topic, people who were there at the time. This year, I mean, just some amazing people you brought to campus or through Zoom, including Denise Graves, the amazing mezzo-soprano. And then I think also Aaron Dworkin, is that right?
Yes, we did. Aaron Dworkin was central to the project because he's the founder of the Sphinx organization, which is really the premier organization in the country supporting strings and piano players of color. And Sphinx has contributed so much to the future of classical music and current classical music. And we've had also several Walnut Hill students who've participated in Sphinx and participated in their various programs and competitions. And I certainly really value what Sphinx brings to classical music. And I wanted Aaron as a representative of that organization, and also because he was Dean of the University of Michigan School of Music and Dance and Theater at the time that this piece was premiered in Michigan. It was premiered by the Michigan Men's Glee Club during the time when Aaron was dean. And as he will talk about in this clip, he was there at the premiere.
I was at the premiere, and I can share this story that one of the 7 was Amadou Diallo, who was killed in New York, and his mother was there and at the premiere, and she was extraordinarily moved. But I think this goes to the power of the music. She said, you know, all of the riots that took place and the demonstrations, she said, this piece captures more about Amadou than any demonstration ever did or any riot ever did. And that was right, like, that's the arts. And so I think it will be a really amazing experience for all of you to see that, and to work with Joel, and to really see how we can all of you can capture things in our society in ways that no one else can, using the arts, and or perform them, other people's creations, in a way that connects with people and hopefully moves us forward, and evolves our humanity.
Another guest we had was Stanford Thompson. He is the founder of Play on Philly, which is an amazing organization in Philadelphia that brings instruments and lessons at no charge to underserved populations in the area. I had met him actually at Walnut Hill in the summer when he was here teaching for the NEC Summer Institute, where I was also teaching. And everyone kept telling me, you have to meet this Stanford Thompson. He's amazing. He's a real mover and shaker, and he's done incredible things. So I met him here, and we've kept in touch and asked him to speak. And I thought he spoke so eloquently about his own experience playing Seven Last Words of the Unarmed by Joel Thompson.
All of what I have ever known about classical music come back full circle to have a piece that portrays the lives of these men whose lives were taken much too soon, and in a way that no one should have to experience, really was, I think, probably the first opportunity I have had to say that this medium of a symphonic orchestra in the creative hands of a composer like Joel Thompson could combine and create something really powerful that not only means a lot to me as a Black man in America, but also means something to everyone that hears it with an open heart.
Well, you know, one of the things that really is so remarkable about this project that you conceived of is really the notion of collaboration and community that exists here, and getting to work with your faculty in new and exciting ways.
Well, one of the most amazing parts about the January project is that the faculty likes to sing in the chorus with the students. I was so happy to have Whit Brown, our head of composition and theory, Teresa Winter Bloom, our head of voice, Laura Tilke, our head of chamber music, all singing, and you singing too, which I was so grateful for. And one of the things that happened was for the concert recording, Will Cooper, who's our other composition and theory teacher, stepped in to conduct the concert recording prior to Erica Washburn conducting what we hope will be the January 1st performance. And people don't know him in his role as a choral conductor, but in fact, he's an amazing, beautiful choral conductor. And he stepped in at the last minute for the concert recording and somehow created this beautiful atmosphere. And you know, we've got a different and new and lovely view of the piece from him. And then we have another kind of amazing experience when we work with Erica, and we're just so lucky. And I think them seeing him as a conductor was fantastic, and they certainly reacted beautifully to him.
We are so pleased now to be joined by some students that participated in the January project. We have Yuki, Rose, Justin, Rain, Mateo, and Freddie. Thank you all so much for being with us. It's great to talk to you. And I'd like to start with Mateo, if I can. Can you tell us what your experience was like doing this piece? You know, how did your perspective change from the beginning of the January project to what we just did with the concert recording early this week?
Well, so I went into the January project a little unsure of what to expect. The piece was really heavy. It was called The 7 Last Words of the Unarmed, where each movement was the last few words of a Black man killed by authority. And so I was a little bit nervous, you know, because singing this piece, obviously we would all get emotional. And we didn't have classes and COVID was going on, so I was like, oh no, like what's going to happen? But then we had our first rehearsal and everybody started to get excited. We began practicing. And over time, we learned about the issue. We had speakers come in and we learned the piece with a great conductor. And over time, I really began to appreciate the piece and learned so much about it over time. But it was just so interesting because every movement had its own character and person it was named after. So, I mean, I really enjoyed the process of it. It really, I'd say it changed me as a person.
I mean, it really is a profound piece. And Mateo, Freddie and I actually were a good core section of the bass twos over there. And I wonder, Freddie, if you have some thoughts you wanted to share about the piece itself.
Absolutely. The piece definitely conveys what it's about very well. I'd say each piece is like each movement, you know, it's in a minor key, except for there are 2 movements, but which are major keys, and that major key is to signify false happiness, as the composer said, as Mr. Thompson said. And the last movement's in the dark key of C minor, and there is the sustained note held by the bass twos, which Mateo, Garrett, and I sung, and it's and the composer said it was supposed to signify like a sort of suffocation, and it's a very heavy piece, and you know it's very tragic what happened, and the piece definitely conveys all of that very well.
It's a really good point too. Holding that C there for basically several minutes. I mean, you become quite sympathetic to the need to breathe, and it hits you in a profound way. Now, Rain, you sort of had the benefit of hearing us all. I hope, but you were in the instrumental ensemble and did just an amazing job with that piano part. What was it like to be in that ensemble and participate in that way with the piece?
I'm very honored to be the pianist as a part of the instrumentalist group this year for the January project. And I think it is definitely a very precious experience for me as a pianist and a composer. At first, I was sort of nervous because after I saw the score, I thought to myself that there's a lot of syncopated rhythm. And also, I don't got a lot of chances before to get to work with other string players and the conductor. But after having our first few rehearsals, I think I just gained so much experience that I will never be able to gain elsewhere. And although I think it's really nice to just learn to like cue with other string players and get to hear the chorale as a whole from the stage. And I'm just really thankful for this opportunity because it really allows me to grow as a pianist and as a composer.
Well, and we were grateful for you too. And another member of the ensemble was Justin. And I wonder, what was it like having the composer here? Because he was here, as we saw in some earlier clips, working with all the participants.
Well, I think Joel Thompson coming and speaking to us was like a crucial part of the whole experience because before we had been rehearsing for about a week and the piece had lots of meaning because we heard about all these other speakers. But when he came, he talked about how the piece was like a part of himself he was exposing, and he was almost like uncomfortable with it being played. So it felt like we had a duty to like really like bring meaning to the piece. And it was just like when we were rehearsing with him, he would give us notes, and like it was he would give us new passion to the whole thing.
And really, I mean, it's always an honor to work with a composer, but he really had some insights, and it was, as he said, kind of a profound experience for him to even write the piece. Yuki, you are a composer and a wonderful one. And if anyone watched Telethon last year, they saw a wonderful piece by you, sort of a tribute to Walnut Hill. But I wonder, as a fellow composer, if you can say some things about what it was like having the composer here and working with him and participating in that way.
Yeah, it was so wonderful that we could meet Mr. Thompson in person. He has an amazing personality. He's so patient to answer our questions, and we heard his stories, and they are so inspirational. And he shared with us that composing is like writing diaries, which I feel really connected to. For me, music is a way to record my lives and emotions, and also how I observe and feel about the world. And then he also coached us during the rehearsal. He told us what he wanted more in emotions. For example, in movement 2, there is a yell at the end. So he wanted us to bring that more and louder, and also bring more dynamic contrasts. So like we can really convey this piece in a better and powerful way when he was actually there to coach us. So it was a great experience. And I thought Mr. Thompson is older than he is because he already has so much in his heart. When I met him in person, I could really connect with him through his music. His kindness and modesty really show that That is why he could create such powerful, appealing music. As a composer, I want to do similar things to Mr. Thompson. I want to use my composition to create something meaningful to the society. So I'm really thankful for this project. It's so special and meaningful.
Thank you so much, Yuki. I know we all share in a similar feeling about the piece and the experience. And Rose, I'm curious, as a bassoonist, you're not typically singing in a choir, but what was your experience with this piece and this experience?
It was definitely, it had a lot of challenges with kind of looking at music in a different way, because I'm not used to like singing. I kind of, I press buttons and the music comes out. So it was really interesting having to use my voice and like continuing to develop that skill, which is like I haven't really done before that much. I think overall with the entire ensemble, the biggest struggle that we had was kind of connecting to the piece. For me, like, I'm not what the piece was written about. It was hard for me to initially connect and kind of feel right doing it. But once the composer came in and got to share his experience and talk on it, and kind of combining that with with all the other speakers that we got to listen to, it made things really come into perspective, and I felt like comfortable and like I was doing something really important, which I think was the point of it. So it turned out really well.
It certainly did. And we have an opportunity now, a special opportunity for you that are joining us, to see a clip of the concert recording that we made just a few days ago. Thank you to our students, Yuki, Freddie, Justin, Mateo, Rose, and Rain, and to Jennifer Elowitch for taking part in tonight's Crush, the first in our 5-part series highlighting the work happening in each of the 5 art majors and sharing some of the unique magic of what happens here at Walnut Hill with you. We invite you to tune in tomorrow, Tuesday, February 1st at 7 p.m. Eastern for our Theater Crush, when we will take a look behind the scenes at what goes into producing a show at Walnut Hill. We'll hear from design and production teacher Mike McCucci, who also serves as the resident designer for our productions, as well as several theater students. From everyone here at Walnut Hill School for the Arts, be well and have a great night.
Hi, I'm Macy.
I'm Kennedy.
And I'm Yuki. And we're your hosts for the 8th annual telethon, Hearts for the Hill.
Coming to you live from the Delbridge Family Center for the Arts.
Sunday, February 6th from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern.